Good morning. Today we will prepare the agenda for the European Council. Security and defense will be a big topic, of course, and the recent violation from Russia of the Polish and Romanian airspace is totally unacceptable, and Sweden stands fully behind Poland and Romania as an ally to NATO, but of course also as an EU member state. And we stand ready to take actions when needed, both when it comes to defense and deterrence. Of course, this will influence the discussion on the European Council, and we are reminded that what the Ukrainian people is experiencing every day is both about Ukrainian security but also about European security. Sweden is pushing for an agreement on the 19th sanctions package as soon as possible to put pressure on Russia, but also to advance in the enlargement process by opening the first cluster of negotiations with Ukraine. And here we regret that one member state is continuing to block the process. Enlargement is also an investment in peace and security in Europe, and we support candidate countries in their efforts once they meet the requirements. And today we will have a discussion about rule of law in some selected candidate countries. I will welcome the progress being made in several countries, but I will also be very clear that the democratic backsliding in Serbia is a great problem, and we expect more from a candidate country. Last but not least, we will also have a discussion on the European Council about competitiveness, and today marks 1 year since the Draghi report was first presented, and we want to move in a faster pace with deregulation and simplification to make sure that Europe is a continent for companies to start and scale up on. And we will push for the continuation to see competitiveness and climate as two parts of the same coin, and that we should definitely agree on a new ambitious climate target for 2040 of reducing emissions by 90%. And this will also be an important discussion when the leaders meet.
More acid to Viktor Orbán's lies. Bringing it up at today's council meeting would only feed them. But I can state clearly, it is lies. A desperate attempt to turn away from the serious problems young people face. Problems with rule of law, oppression against civil society. My focus is to make a change for young people. Sweden is working with all available means, because that is where the real problematic situation is. Everything else from Orbán's side is lies. A desperate attempt to turn away from young people. If it is lies, is it not important to point it out? We have been very clear from Sweden's government side. Both me and the Prime Minister said yesterday, these are lies. The figures Orbán refers to are completely wrong. He chooses to point his light towards Sweden, probably because we are one of the most vocal critics. We are also clearly striving to take different measures. For example, to freeze even more money going to young people. Money that should not go there. We strive to ensure not a single euro goes to a country violating the rule of law. We intervene in 5 different court proceedings against young people. So it is obvious why Orbán points his light towards Sweden. You mentioned the drones in Poland. NATO only shot down 3 out of 19. This is an attempt from Putin to destabilize Europe, to find cracks, to test us. That is why NATO must come together clearly. After violations of Polish and Romanian airspace, we must show we stand united. It is another alarm clock for all of us. The war in Ukraine is also a question of European security. NATO has made important decisions on the 5% target. The EU has made important decisions too. But we have to speed up. All countries must have a realistic plan to reach the new defense targets. Do you feel safe with the answers so far? NATO clearly showed solidarity. The EU did as well. We will discuss the question today when Poland raises it. We show clear agreement and determination. But again, all countries must deliver. Sweden has a serious plan to reach the target. All countries must have that. We must also increase support to Ukraine. Sweden is the 5th largest by GDP in military support. There is room for more countries to do more. This should be a time of the week. You mentioned the climate before the summit. There will be no decision on the 2040 target. We apologize for that. We wanted a decision at the Environmental Council this week. Now it will come up at the European Council. We will push for a 90% emissions reduction by 2040. Sweden has clear views on how it should go. It must be done realistically. All fossil-free energy sources must be included. Sustainable forestry must be part of the solution. We stand clearly behind the climate target. We see it as a competitive advantage for Europe. Has the EU been too ambitious with the Green Deal? We support the new target from the Commission. But Europe's competitiveness must be strengthened. 5 years ago, everyone talked about climate. Now everyone talks about competitiveness. Sweden says they are two sides of the same coin. The transition is the way forward. Our companies must stay at the forefront. We need predictable regulations. We must carry it out in a realistic and sustainable way. All fossil-free energy production is welcome. The forest is part of the solution. We need bio-CCS and negative emissions. There's a big discussion to have, but we stand behind the climate target. It must go hand in hand with competitiveness. That is very clear.